화면 잘 보이시나요?
Can you see my screen well?
네. 안녕하세요.
Yes, thank you very much.
에서 학생들을 가르치고 있는
Good afternoon.
라고
My
합니다.
name is Gong Wanwook. I'm a teacher of the Ilsan Elementary School, and also I'm teaching students in Gyeongin Teachers University about the teaching methodology. Today I'm going to talk about a case study of cultural diversity practiced in art. By saying a case study, it's not about the qualitative study that we do. I am talking about the case in which, in reality, when I'm teaching students in the classroom about art, how it is in place, that's the explanation that I'm going to do in my case study. So as we have development of the traffic and communications, before we try to pursue the single culturalism of my own group or my own community, we would share my culture with other culture or other country by attacking them or assimilating them with ours. But as we have development in traffic and communications, we interact with each other. We exchange with each other. Now, not only economically, but also culturally, we exchange with another culture. So in its early stage, in the mainstream culture to the subculture, that was the direction the culture moved from one side to other side. That's why those with weaker military power, they are naturally the one who have to forcefully accept the culture of the powerful countries. For example, Korea, we were not a powerful country in the first place, so we were the one we have to accept other country culture for a while. And right now, we also have a tendency to prefer writing something only in English. So here you see a seniors club. We don't have any Korean explanation what seniors club is, but those old generations, they don't know much about English. They prefer speaking or written something in Korean. But we see many board or bulletin board and others on the streets. We prefer writing something in English rather than Korean. Why is it? It's because we think and we perceive English as more prestigious or luxurious when we explain something. As language is a part of culture, when only one culture just survives while others are just passing and going the way of dinosaurs, that is not something that we try to pursue. That's why UNESCO says the cultural diversity is equated to the natural diversity. When we have cultural diversity flourish, only then can we have a successful multiculturalism and coexistence. So then let's talk about culture. We talked about culture in our previous sessions as well, but the culture, it's not only art or attire. It's not limited to that part. When we think about the definition from the Korean Standard Dictionary, the culture means the way of life and way of living that is shared and acquired or transferred by the citizens or group members to realize a certain level of life of living to escape from the natural stage. So for that, they acquire or gain some physical or spiritual gains in the middle of that process. So for the food and others are included and many others as well. And UNESCO also understand and recognize that the culture is the spiritual, material, or intellectual characteristics one social group shows in their art, literature, and way of living, and value and tradition and belief. Art is one part of culture. And among arts, I am teaching students painting. The painting, the art is everywhere. As we have many different agency or mediums are everywhere. We have Instagram, social medias, and others. We use them as a tool to express our art. The visual aspect is everywhere where we live. And also the cultural diversity and globalization, we communicate with others by saying language. We do have interpreters here to help communication between two different languages. But this visual communications instead of language communications, it is very intuitive and you can see and recognize a meaning right away once you see it. And cultural diversity, let's look at its concept. This is a definition by UNESCO. For the group and society, it's various ways to express their culture. Here, we can think about different types of creation of art and also tools. So by saying this, they are incorporating the arts and also the way of living the humankind has created until now. But in a bigger term and bigger perspective, we can understand cultural diversity and that is really important. So UNESCO suggests this way of cultural diversity is not only for one nation only, it's for the humankind as a whole. So by doing so, we try to have an approach to the cultural diversity education. So cultural diversity education, it is based on the understanding about the various different cultures. We try to build the cultural sensibilities and also to respect and integrate with other cultures. By doing so, we can coexist with each other by communicating with each other. That is the gist of the education of cultural diversity. This is the redefinition that I had based on other different kinds of definitions on cultural diversity. So this education is targeting at integration. We have two different sides when it comes to these cultural diversity and its education. There are universal values that we need to look up to when it comes to do the education to children, but that is all encompassed by the cultural diversity education. So the all the concepts and values that we have discussed so far about the cultural diversity, when we look at 10 core values of the cultural diversity education, there are human rights, equality, conversation, civility, and the cultural sensitivity, respect and tolerance, and interdependence, social definition, difference, and coexistence. These are all the universal values that we need to look up to as a one humankind. There are some ambiguous part here. Here you said communications and conversation. Here, the openness and respecting to each other. And under the premise that we cannot have just one side just right and others are wrong, we have to accept and open every possible opinions in the communications. And also the cultural sensitivity, we have to have this sensibility culturally to accept and to react to other cultures. And social definition, it means on the diversity, we have to publicly accept such diversity, thereby striking the balance between the diversity and integration. How can we achieve these core values in our education? That is something that we need to consider. So the case studies that I want to show you here is that for the cultural diversity education, as stressed by UNESCO, the importance of the cultural diversity education to make the world sustainable as one international community, we have to work on further together. So here, to directly and unilaterally apply this to our education, as we of course we do not pursue the UNESCO's way as it is. We try to incorporate it in a way that can be harmoniously integrated with our own way of education. For this, the Ministry of Culture And tourism established a guideline which was well established, but that guideline was not put into practice when we do the research in the real life and in at the field. So we have to think about, and I thought about how to well apply this guideline in real education. So how we can use this education and guideline in our art education. We can think about the commonality and the connectivity between the two. So the five things that I elaborated here are the general five objectives of cultural diversity education, and under which you can see the general objective of art curriculum. So I will look at it one by one. So first, cultivating citizenship and personality to live as a global citizen by doing the cultural diversity education in art. And also to build one's identity, it had to build trust with others. For that, they have to have an approach that is very sensible. And that is something that the art education really stresses out well. And it is also proven we have many successful stories about that. And we also have to have the sensitivity of cultural differences and the attitude of respecting differences. When we appreciating artworks, accepting the difference is one very important values that we have to keep in mind. And the practice of cultural coexistence through the development of culture detoxification between boundaries. By saying this, the cultural diversity education is highly related with art education. The general objectives of art curriculum is as this. So it can be different, it can be categorized into two different parts. So the enhancing the ability to communicate between different cultures and to communicate and understand different social scope. And for this part, so generation, gender, region, and class and minority, they have understanding and communication within each other.
Now, let me turn to areas of cultural diversity education. There are four elements: cognition and social emotion, practice, cultural creation, expression, stage by stage. But in practice, it is very difficult for us to teach or raise awareness of diversity education stage by stage like this. So I believe that these four elements circulate with each other, and then that's how I organize my classes for my students. In art education, this is the design process of cultural diversity education in arts education. So first we need to set the standard for achievement and select topics to learn, considering social scope of education in cultural diversity. After choosing it, then we need to compare and analyze the goals of art education, and then take it to compare and to analyze with areas of education and cultural diversity and also core competency in art education. And then I confirm and apply detailed elements and also teaching methodologies. Now, please allow me to introduce my classes. It's not the classes that are done by myself. I designed this and another teacher taught this way under the topic of conveying the mind with images using various languages. In the beginning, I showed you languages which is related to this topic. There are three set learning objectives. First, the meaning and morphological beauty of the character of various countries of the world can be explored and respected. It can be shown in pictures and letters by utilizing the meaning and feeling they convey. It is possible to appreciate, visualize the characters with the meaning of coexistence and respect, and to share them through various media. So these are the values that we can get, for example, communication, respect, and diversity, and sensitivity, and also coexistence. These are the values that we expect to achieve. And in a primary school, 40 minutes is the one class lasts 40 minutes. And the number of classes designed for this class was a bit longer than other classes. First, children were asked to look at the images and use the characters of different countries of the world aesthetically, rather than trying to understand what it means. But the children were supposed to visually analyze the characters of other countries. When we look at clothing and attire, adults wear T-shirts on which English word is written, right? So I just wanted to break the concept that the people who look at the foreign language, they tend to understand what it means, but I think it is important to aesthetically appreciate the images itself. So expressing the meaning and feeling you want to convey with the pictures and letters during the third and fourth lessons. And during the fifth and sixth lessons, students were asked to admire works that bring text into the realm of art. And also they were going to have time to appreciate and empathize the characters of other countries. So these are feelings expressed by students. So what comes to your mind when you think of a T-shirt with the different languages on? So normally our students and the Korean students wear T-shirts with English words on it. And students looked up the T-shirt with different languages were written on other than English. And they said like this, without limited to English. So when we see T-shirts with the English words on it, it looks prettier. And the second question asked was that, why do you think that a T-shirt with English is a lot more compared to other T-shirts with the different languages on? Well, in terms of design quality, I think the T-shirt with English words on it are better than the T-shirt with the different languages on it. So I showed students different languages and asked them to find out aesthetical value of the characters. For example, the characters of Kirill and other words, and then people said that it doesn't look like letters or characters, it almost looks like images with lots of curvy lines. And I asked them to choose your favorite word. And then one student said, I want freedom. And the student looked up what it is translated into different languages, for example, Vietnamese, like that. So students were invited to find out aesthetical value among different languages and also to translate their favorite sentences or words into different languages. Using fabric marker, students were asked to decorate empty shirts like this. And they took pictures of themselves wearing the T-shirt that they designed using different languages of other countries. And they even went on to share the T-shirt with others. Of course, they found it difficult to communicate with people in other countries, but they could do it using social media like Instagram. So they even analyzed different art pieces and artworks, and then even went in to write a letter to the creator of the works. Let me read it for you. They are very unique and also special characters, and I like some of them. And I didn't know that the languages other than English looked quite awesome and fantastic. So by engaging this kind of activity, I did not compare whether that brought about improvement in quantity or quality, but I think this shows the power of art education. And I think subliminally, we think that the visually, aesthetically appreciated images is largely dependent on art education. And this was a class aimed at nurturing visual values among students. Thank you very much.